Do Manchester United need another striker? We've already signed Joshua Zirkzee. We have Rasmus Hojlund from last season. But is there still gaps in that number 9 position for Manchester United? We're going to be looking through the options. There's been some links to some strikers in recent days. What will they bring to Man United? And fundamentally, Jay, are we going to go into another season lacking in that centre-forward position? That's what we're going to find out, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a good question, because I think we've all been sort of focused on, are we going to bring in a centre-back? Are we going to bring in a right-back? What's happening there? We're still waiting for a midfielder. Yep. All the attention has been on that. And because we bought Joshua Zirkzee, maybe there wasn't as much concern or as much talk around the striking position. But when you scratch beneath that surface, Joseph, there's things to be a little bit worried about, if I'm being brutally honest.
Well, one thing that I think, we're going to get into people and sort of possible options in a second. One thing I think is worth talking about is Joshua Zirkzee. We'll start there. His numbers from last season isn't someone where he's sort of screaming prolific goal scorer, is he? I think it was 15 goals in all competitions last season for Joshua Zirkzee. So he's a player who, whilst he can obviously put the ball in the back of the net, isn't someone that's going to do it every single week. He's not going to get us 40 goals or even 30 or, let's be honest, in a difficult league, he might not even get 20.
Or even 10.
Or even 5.
Or even 1.
He's not going to score at all. But you know what I mean? He's not going to be someone that's banging the goals in, week out. Does that worry you?
You wouldn't expect him to, no. And he might surprise us, he might. Let's not forget as well, just quickly, some strikers can just sort of get to that point in the career where you look at him at 22, 23 and they look like they're going one way, and then all of a sudden they just explode like Jamie Vardy did.
Yeah.
But no, I wouldn't expect him to be prolific. I think he offers a lot to Manchester United and he'll bring a lot to this team, and I'm glad we've got him. But I'm not expecting him to be hitting anything like the 20 or 30 goal numbers. And listen, I hope he proves me wrong. So he's not that type of guy. And I don't think Manchester United brought him in expecting him to bang in goals. I think a sort of more pertinent question is perhaps, is Rasmus Hojlund going to hit those numbers? Is he going to up his game a little bit? Because he had a very solid first season at Manchester United. It wasn't all sunshine and rainbows. I know you're going to get into him properly in a minute. But can he kick on and give you those sort of the numbers that you'd associate with a title-challenging striker?
Yeah, so just on Zirkzee a little bit in terms of, we've been through Zirkzee a couple of times before, but his passing numbers and passing stats are exceptional. That's kind of where he excels, on the ball rather than, off it or having shots. His goals, like we said before, aren't amazing, but his passing numbers are great. He's in the top 16% of passes attempted for strikers. He's also in the top 11% for successful take-ons. So with the ball at his feet, giving it out to his teammates, he's very good. And when you've got people like Rashford who, for me, on his day, or not even on his day, on his season, because he's on
his season is a good way of putting it.
Yeah, because on his day is like, there's loads of players on the day are fantastic. Very few have strung together seasons like Marcus Rashford has.
No.
When he does have one of those seasons, having a facilitator next to him is all he needs, because he is one of the best goal-scoring wingers in the world when he's having a good year. And you can all have your opinion on what he's like right now, but you can't deny that scoring 30 goals from the wing in the Premier League, not Premier League goals, but from a Premier League team, is a very, very rare thing to be able to do. So you put Zirkzee next to him, I think we could maybe have a very successful season. You talk about Hojlund there, and I think we should jump into one of some of the names we've been linked with, because for me, all the other players we've been linked with are much more like Hojlund than they are like Zirkzee.
Okay.
Zirkzee's got an almost unique profile. His tackling numbers are very good, his defensive numbers are very good, and his passing numbers are great. Not so much in terms of goal scoring. Now, let's start with Ivan Toney maybe. He's someone that we can look at this season, but generally speaking, he's considered more of a goal scorer. He's had 20-plus goal seasons multiple times in his career. He's someone that you bring on the pitch to get you a goal. He's not going to be as involved in the build-up play as a Joshua Zirkzee, even though he can do that stuff. Do you like Ivan Toney? Because this name keeps cropping up. There's clearly something in this, I think.
I was one of the sort of biggest advocates of signing Toney when he got his ban. I was saying United should get him.
This was last summer.
Yeah, last summer.
Yeah.
Like, get him for the January window. Put a bid in now and let's try and get him in. So when his ban ends, we can bring him straight in. Obviously, we didn't do that. And I don't know how likely that was ever going to be, to be honest with you. But I would have been happy if we'd have done that. He came back from his ban and he hit the ground running, scoring, I think, 4 goals it was in about 7 games or something like that. And then he stopped scoring. And I think he went about 12 games without a goal. But the thing with Ivan Toney is, even when he's not scoring, you can still see he's a good player. He passes the eye test, as you like to say. When you watch him, there's a player there. He offers a lot. He's very good on the ball. He's always, he can lead the line. He can he's got that sort of attribute of a modern striker. He's got all these different sort of skill sets that he brings to it. So even if he's not scoring, you can still see why a club like Manchester United might be looking at him. However, it is a bit of a concern because he did have this barren spell. And then you're going to sign him to, if you did get him, bring him to Manchester United and hope that he can just shrug that off and start scoring goals for Manchester United. So there's that slight worry. However, I do think Ivan Toney is a very good player. He's very good at dead balls, not just penalties. Obviously, he can take free kicks as well. We've seen him do that. Like you say, he has hit those heights. He's had 20 goal plus seasons at a team like Brentford, no disrespect to them. No one saw that one coming, really. And I think when he was picked for Gareth Southgate's England squad, no one really moaned about that. No one went, why is Ivan Toney now when he stopped scoring for his club? Everyone got it. Everyone was like, pretty much, most people wanted him to start over Ollie Watkins if Harry Kane wasn't available. So there's a reason why a lot of people like Ivan Toney, and there's a reason why he's respected, and sort of a lot of clubs were being linked with him, is because of the ability he's got. I think that what sort of happened there is the interest has cooled from almost everyone, and that's maybe why Manchester United could get in there if it was a sort of late bid.
Yeah, it's a weird one with Toney as well, isn't it? Because they've been talking like, he's been saying it, Brentford have been saying it about how he's going to leave and how he wants to leave on the right terms and he didn't want to do it. Like, it's like, since basically he came back from his ban, he can't stop talking about how he's not going to be there next season. And yet, he don't look like he's going anywhere at the minute. So I wonder if that could be like do you know one way if you're United, you're going, we'll keep that to one side. And if a week before the end of the window, no one else has gone for him, we might be able to sneak in and get him for a little bit cheaper because he's only got 1 year left on his deal.
Yeah.
And this whole thing of like, Ivan Toney will leave Brentford, that story has been out there. And yet, there's no sort of meat on the bones yet. No one's actually after him. So if United sneak in, I reckon that could be done, you know.
I reckon you're right, and I've heard a few rumours of this. I mentioned this in my news the other day. I'm not ITK before anyone has a go at me, but a few people who I respect were saying, look, keep your eye on this one.
We are a little bit ITK then, aren't you? In this instance.
In this instance, I mean, I might be completely wrong.
You might be wrong.
Yeah, but it's people that I respect, and they're not saying it's going to happen, but they're saying, look, there is actually a bit of interest there, and United are sort of looking at that, and I wouldn't be surprised if United did at least try to bring him in. The thing with Ivan Toney is, if he comes to United, he's going to be challenging for that striker's position. He's not going to want to come to United at 28 years old and just sit on the bench and watch Rasmus Hojlund play every week. He's going to come into Manchester United. He's going to want to keep his place in the England squad. He's going to try and win trophies. He's going to carry on wanting to score goals. He's going to want to start. And I think he'll rival Rasmus Hojlund for that starting position. I think we're going to talk about Evan Ferguson in a minute, who might be coming in and be happy to be a bit of a backup. Even Zirkzee's probably happy to be a backup, or at least, I won't say happy, but might understand that he probably is a backup. With Ivan Toney, though, I think he'll come in and he'll be looking at it going, look, I should be starting.
Yeah.
I should be starting for Manchester United. I've scored more goals than Rasmus Hojlund scored. I've scored more goals in the Premier League than Rasmus Hojlund scored. I'm at my peak. He's still learning his craft. I think there'll be a real bit of competition there. Maybe we need a bit of that, because I like Hojlund, but maybe it wouldn't be a bad idea if you had a bit of competition. And also, let's not forget, if anyone gets injured, then you're going to need someone like Ivan Toney.
Yeah. You mentioned there Evan Ferguson. Let's move on and talk about him a little bit, because he's someone that 12 months ago, again, when you were sort of banging the drum for us signing Ivan Toney, a lot of people wanted Evan Ferguson.
Yeah.
He was rated and rumoured to be sort of in the sort of £100 million mark. This is when
Just
Caicedo
ridiculous.
was being fought over by Chelsea and Liverpool, and it felt like Brighton could do no wrong. He have since had a slower season, less goals, less points, less impressive from Brighton last season. And now all of a sudden, Ferguson, who I think he's got 6 goals in 27 games last season, which, you know, even for a 19-year-old, isn't great. You know, I'm not knocking
it's worth
him,
scratching beneath the surface of that.
Yeah.
Sorry, go on. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Well, yeah, 3 of those goals came in 1 game. So, obviously, fantastic scoring a hat-trick, but that means he scored in 4 games last season.
Well, it's not just that. He scored, obviously, that hat-trick against Newcastle. But then, I think at one point, he had like 6 goals in 12 games or whatever, and he didn't score again.
Yeah.
So at one point, his record looked really good, and then he went 15 games or thereabouts in the Premier League without getting a goal. That's concerning, because the thing with a teenager and a young striker is, yes, he could be on the verge of greatness. This could be a player who is absolutely phenomenal, who goes on to break all sorts of records. Let's not forget, he's probably got a better goal-scoring record or more Premier League goals than a lot of top-level strikers did. Harry Kane probably didn't have as many goals in the Premier League when he was that age. Well, no, he didn't. So he's at least got a head start in that sense. But sometimes you see youngsters, they burst onto the scene, they do really well, and then they plateau a little bit, and they don't quite reach the heights that they were going to. So it's a bit of a funny one with Evan Ferguson. I think the big positive about Evan Ferguson is he's probably sort of tailored to be a backup for now. He's only 19. He's actually younger than Hojlund, and his goal scoring record isn't that great where he's going to be demanding, I don't think, anyway. To start, the one issue I've got with that one is Brighton. They don't give players away.
No.
They don't. You mentioned there Caicedo. Brighton get decent money for all their players. I think McAllister was the one that they let go quite cheap because he had a buyout clause. But like you were saying there, when Evan Ferguson burst on the scene, 80, 90, 100 million was being mentioned with a straight face, because that's the kind of deals that Brighton push for. So that would worry me a little bit. I think the only reason Evan Ferguson, or the way Evan Ferguson becomes worth it, is if United can get him for cheap, and I don't see that happening, to be honest with you. When I say cheap, in this day and age, cheaper would probably be about 40 million.
It depends, doesn't it? For me, you're getting him a lot less than you would have done 12 months ago, which maybe now's the time. If you genuinely see a player there, you're probably going to get him for half the fee that you would have a year ago. From what I've seen of him, I'm not that impressed. I think he's a good looking striker, but I don't think he's someone that blows me away. And if you're bringing in someone who's even younger than Hojlund, who's like going to be even further down the pecking order, who you're waiting to get, like we're already waiting for Hojlund to kick on, then we're waiting for Zirkzee to kick on, then we're waiting for even more for, like, I feel like we need someone who can come in and score a few goals, and to me, I just don't see it, unless they see it as this incredible value because he's going to be cheap because he had a bad year. But I don't know, I just don't fancy Evan Ferguson personally. I think that the next thing to talk about is how these players fit in. So let's just strip it back a little bit. Zirkzee and Hojlund, they are at the club. We know they're here. I know Hojlund's injured for a little bit now, but we need to get these players playing. So for you, is it just we stick with a sort of 4-3-3, 4-2-3-1, however you want to look at it, that we've been playing with recently or in the last couple of years? Or do you see maybe a change of style, whether that be sort of a 3-2-5 that we saw in pre-season, or this sort of 4-2-4 kind of configuration that we've seen in possession with two strikers? Or do you see maybe a 4-4-2 with two strikers playing? Or do you think it's going to be, if Zirkzee's playing, you can pretty much guarantee that Hojlund won't be, and vice versa?
Yeah, I would love to see 4-4-2 come back. It's one of my favourite ever formations. Well, it is my favourite ever formation. My favourite United team was the 94 team, where you had wingers bombing forward and you had a strong midfield and you had the likes of Eric and Sparky banging in great goals. I don't think that it makes any sense to play both Zirkzee and Hojlund. I just don't see that happening. I think they're both good players, but do I see them forging a partnership? Do I think United are going to risk having two strikers at the expense of a midfielder or whatever? And also, I think it's sort of tailor-made for Garnacho, Diallo or Rashford or whatever on the wings, with someone like a Hojlund or a Zirkzee down the middle who can link up well with those types of players. So I'd be surprised if it was a 4-4-2 or any variation of that saw two strikers. I just don't see it happening.
I think it's a bad idea to do that personally.
Yeah.
I think this whole thing of like, oh, we've got two strikers and only two strikers, so we're playing both at all times. How's that going to work?
And also,
then if we have, we're a goal down or someone gets injured, who are you bringing on? You need a striker in the. People as well forgetting that, what was it, 4 years ago now, whatever, you can have 5 subs. That is half of your outfield team can be switched at any given moment of the game. The 5 subs thing makes rotation massively different, because 10, 15 years ago, if you're a sub, the odds of you getting on are 1 in 3.
Yeah.
Now, or less than 1 in 3. Now the odds of you getting on are 1 in 2. It's so much different being a substitute now or a rotation player. You still play 40 games a season as a rotation, because every single week you're either winning and you want to rest your number one, or you need a goal and you want to bring another striker on.
Look at Omari Forson last season.
Yeah,
like he got minutes. He got brought on because we needed to bring on an attacker, a striker, and he was one of the only ones available on the bench. And I'm not knocking the kid; he played his part in that Wolves game, for example, but that was where we're at. You're a player that you don't even know if he's good enough for the Premier League, let alone for Manchester United, and you're throwing him on because you're so desperate. Would we be in that situation with someone like Ethan Wheatley, for example? The visa's still about.
Yeah, potentially.
Or, in 6 months, we're going to see a campaign for the kid Obi Martin to be on the bench, to bring him on. We might end up in silly season if we're starting to play two strikers. Let's not forget as well, when we have played two strikers in the past, we played York and Cole and had Sheringham and Solskjaer on the bench. Yeah. We haven't got anything like that now.
Well, we wouldn't have any recognised first-team strikers on the bench unless we do sign another player, which maybe we do need. And I think that, as a bit of a sort of summary, I think the idea of signing another striker, to me, isn't a bad one. I would like United to get another striker in there. I think, especially look at the options in the attack in general. You've got Sancho and Anthony, who they obviously aren't the same player and aren't the same person, but are in a similar situation where I don't think the manager really is keen on either of them. You've basically got Garnacho, Ahmad and Rashford are the only sort of recognised manager trusted, and even then calling Ahmad manager trusted is pushing it, but we'll give him that because of pre-season. You've got 3 wingers for 2 positions, and you've got 2 strikers for 1 position. That's only 2 excess players across 3 positions.
Yeah.
And after that, you're dipping into people who he doesn't like.
You're moving Rashford into the middle.
Yeah,
example,
I mean you can switch him around, but then you're losing him elsewhere.
Yeah,
like,
it's flawed.
I think United need...
Or Bruno as a false 9 again.
Yeah.
It's not ideal.
You need players who the manager actually likes coming off the bench. Not like, oh, we've got this first team and then everyone else after that either has never done it in a United shirt, namely Anthony or Sancho, or someone who the manager isn't really keen on. Like, you need players on the pitch and on the bench who the manager goes, you know what, he can do something different and better than the guy who's already on there. Not, oh, I don't want to bring him off because look at the options. Like, if United have got a striker on, or 2 strikers on, let's say Zirkzee is out on the left-hand side, whatever, Hojlund gets injured, you're down to 1 striker and an option already. We've seen Hojlund's injury record isn't great. I think another striker would be brilliant. For me, I'd be up for Ivan Toney. I don't think he's going to score bags of goals. I think that he's someone that is in between being a top striker and a kind of mid-level striker. He's in that little gap where he could go either way. But even if he doesn't, having someone like that off the bench, I think would be an excellent signing personally. What do you reckon?
I agree. The question is, will we get him? Is Ivan Toney going to be playing for Manchester United?
If we can sell a couple more players, I think he might.
If we get rid of Sancho to PSG, maybe Casemiro to Saudi.
Yeah, I think he would.
Because midfielder's priority in it.
Yeah.
So we need to sell enough to buy 2 players.
We need a midfielder. There's still more rumours about Branthwaite, which I can't see that after De Ligt and Euro, but we're clearly into the centre-backs. We need a centre-mid, and after that, I honestly can see it. I don't think, we don't need to put a percentage chance on it, but for me, if United were to get Ivan Toney, I'd be happy with that, and I think that would help United almost sort of guarantee top 4 this season.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I think it could happen, and I think when we sign him, we'll win the league.
Perfect. Right, that's going to be all from us. Get your thoughts in the comments because it's a bit of a tricky one, this. What does it mean for Zirkzee? What does it mean for Hojlund? Do United need another attacker? And with this sort of rotating style of football that United have been employing in pre-season and so far in the Community Shield, do United need more numbers in that number 9 position? Get your thoughts in the comments. Thank you, Jay, of course. Another little chat that. Yeah, thank you for watching at home, and we'll see you in a bit.